All right, you're not going to believe what I had to do to get my own damn bedroom back. Seriously. You think you know someone, you share a space with them, you try to be the cool, accommodating roommate, and then you find out they've turned your personal sanctuary into a low-budget porn set. So let's talk about Willow. When she first moved in, she was the picture of a perfect roommate. Bubbly, always laughing with this mane of bright, almost cartoonishly blonde hair. Our apartment wasn't huge, but it was in a decent part of town and we split the rent. On the surface, it worked, but living with someone, you start to see the little things, right? It started with my expensive coffee, then it was my oat milk, then my laundry detergent. She'd borrow them always with a dazzling smile and a promise to replace them, a promise that had a shelf life of about 5 seconds. She was a leech, but a charming one, the kind that makes you feel guilty for even thinking of asking for the $5 she owes you. I let it slide. I'm not a confrontational person, and honestly, I just wanted peace in my own home. The breaking point, though, wasn't about money or milk, it was about my vacation. I'd been saving up for months, a 2-week trip to a quiet beach town to just unplug and decompress. I was leaving the entire apartment in her care. Before I left, I did a full deep clean. I'm talking scrubbing baseboards, cleaning windows, the whole 9 yards. My bedroom, my pride and joy, was immaculate. I even treated myself and put on my favorite set of crisp, expensive, pure white Egyptian cotton sheets. It was a blank canvas of tranquility, waiting for my return. That was my mistake. I left my sanctuary in the hands of a smiling parasite. The vacation was bliss. 2 weeks of sun, sand, and the sweet, sweet silence of not having to wonder if someone was using my expensive conditioner. I came back feeling like a new person, dragging a sandy suitcase up the 3 flights of stairs to our apartment. I was exhausted, but in that deeply satisfying post-holiday way. Willow was there to greet me, all smiles and effusive energy. "Aubrey, oh my God, welcome back. How was it? You look amazing." She even brought in my mail. For a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of guilt for my previous annoyance with her. Maybe she wasn't so bad. I dropped my bags in my room and stopped. The door had been closed, but the air inside was wrong. It was stale, but with a lingering, cloying sweetness. Like cheap vanilla body spray trying to cover up the smell of, well, I didn't know what yet. My eyes scanned the room, everything looked neat. The bed was made, not how I would make it, but it was made. But the feeling of wrongness was screaming at me now. I walked over to the bed, my sanctuary with the expensive white sheets, and my heart sank. And there it was. Lying on my pristine white pillowcase, a single offensively bright pink thread of fake fur. Willow had this god-awful, fluffy pink blanket she was obsessed with. She treated it like a treasured pet, dragging it from her room to the couch and back again. It shed like a yeti in summer. Seeing that pink fiber on my pillow was like finding a bloody fingerprint at a crime scene. My mind started racing. My first thought was that she'd just been sleeping in my bed while I was gone, which was gross and disrespectful enough. But then my eyes landed on my desk in the corner. It was pushed back against the wall, but it was off by about an inch. And the bundle of cables for my router and monitor, which I always keep neatly tied, looked like they'd been hastily shoved back into place. On a hunch, a sick, churning feeling growing in my gut, I booted up my PC. I'm a bit of a nerd, I like to know what's going on with my network. I logged into our router's admin page and went straight to the traffic logs. My jaw hit the floor. The data usage logs for the past 14 days showed a colossal, non-stop stream of uploads originating from 2 devices. Willow iPhone and Willow MacBook. We're not talking about a few gigs for a school project, we're talking terabytes, an obscene amount of data being pushed out into the internet all while I was gone. Suddenly, it all clicked into place with a nauseating certainty. The cloying perfume, the single pink fiber on my pillow, the moved desk, probably to get a better camera angle. The insane upload traffic, her vague, giggly comments about making easy money online. She hadn't just been in my room, she had used it. She had used my bed, my clean white sheets, my private space as the backdrop for her OnlyFans content. The warmth from the vacation vanished, replaced by something cold and sharp. It wasn't just anger, it was the feeling of being utterly, foundationally violated. And in that moment, I knew a simple confrontation wouldn't cut it, not even close. I closed the laptop lid slowly and deliberately. The rage was still there, a white-hot coal in the pit of my stomach, but it was being rapidly encased in ice. A direct confrontation, yelling, throwing her pink blanket in the trash, it was what she would expect. It would lead to tears, denials, manipulative apologies, and maybe, at best, her sullenly moving out. It was too easy, it was too cheap, it didn't balance the scales. She had used my personal space, my sanctuary, as a film set to build her sleazy little business. So I decided I would use her business to methodically dismantle her entire life. This wasn't going to be a shouting match, this was going to be a project. My new emotional state wasn't rage anymore. It was a profound, chilling sense of intellectual superiority. I was going to outsmart her so completely that she'd never even see the wrecking ball until it had already smashed through her walls. The first rule of war is to know your enemy. So that night, I became a ghost online. I used a VPN routed through a server in another country, created a new burner email address, and purchased a prepaid, untraceable virtual credit card. 10 minutes later, a new user by the name of Devoted Fan 22 subscribed to Willow's top-tier OnlyFans package. I was officially in. It was a surreal, nauseating experience. There it was, my bedroom. My unique carved headboard was a frequent co-star. The antique reading lamp my grandmother gave me was visible in the background of half the pictures. She had a whole series of photos taken while lounging on my bed, wrapped in nothing but that disgusting pink fur blanket. The violation felt fresh and sharp all over again, but I pushed it down. This was intelligence gathering. Her whole online persona was the sweet girl next door, a college student just trying to make ends meet while exploring her sexuality. It was a carefully crafted lie that apparently a lot of lonely men were willing to pay for. I spent hours scrolling, reading, and watching, not with arousal, but with the detached focus of an auditor. I analyzed her audience, her most frequent commenters, and the kind of content that got the most tips. And then I found it, the fatal flaw. The critical information leak that would be her undoing. It wasn't in the pictures or videos. It was in the private messages, the exclusive content for her biggest fans. To get her to open up, I started tipping her generously for every new post. 20 bucks here, 50 there. As Devoted Fan 22, I became her favorite customer overnight, and she started talking. She complained endlessly about her super conservative, ridiculously controlling parents. She bragged about how they were loaded but kept her on a financial leash, forcing her to invent elaborate lies to get money out of them. Just told them I need $500 for a special chemistry textbook, lol. One message read. That should cover my new lingerie haul. Another one detailed how she got her dad to pay for a student leadership conference that was actually a weekend trip to Vegas with a friend. I saved every single message. I screen recorded every video where she complained about them, her parents, the people who thought their daughter was a diligent, innocent student. They were her safety net, her bank, and the foundation of her entire real-world identity. And she had just handed me the sledgehammer to smash it all to pieces. My strategy was simple, elegant, and cruel. I wouldn't expose her, I would make her expose herself. I was going to be the director of her downfall, using her own ambition and greed as my primary tools. My revenge would be a domino effect collapse, and my role was just to gently, precisely tip over the first piece. As Devoted Fan 22, I began a campaign of calculated flattery and encouragement. My first move was a $75 tip on a generic post with a simple message. Finally, some genuinely high-quality content, you're in a league of your own. It worked like a charm. I was instantly on her radar. She slid into my DMs with a gushing thank you message, and the door was open. From there, I played the long game. The girl next door vibe is amazing, I'd write, but what makes you so compelling is the realness. Other creators use sterile, boring backdrops. You're brave enough to show a piece of your actual life. She loved that. The word brave seemed to flip a switch in her head. My requests started getting more specific, always couched in the language of an art critic. The way the warm light from that reading lamp hits your shoulder, it's truly artistic. It gives your photos such a cozy, intimate feel, I'd comment, along with a $50 tip. A week later, she posted a whole set featuring the lamp prominently, captioning it for my fans who appreciate the little details. I was building her brand for her, a brand inextricably linked to my bedroom. I did the same with the distinctive abstract paintings on my wall. The art in your room is so cool, it shows you have great taste, not just a great body. Tip, new photo set. Then the masterstroke. That carved headboard on your bed is absolutely gorgeous, it's so unique. Honestly, you should make that your signature backdrop. It's iconic. A $100 tip followed that one. She was so blinded by the praise and the money that she never once questioned it. In her mind, she was a burgeoning artist, a savvy entrepreneur curating her aesthetic. She even made a post thanking her true fans for helping her find her creative direction. She was turning my room, my private, violated space, into her trademarked brand identity. Every new photo and video she took at my request was another nail she hammered into her own coffin. There was one heart-stopping moment. After I praised the headboard, she messaged me, LOL, you have such a good eye for detail. It's like you've seen my room in person or something. My blood ran cold for a second. But I replied smoothly, haha, I wish. I'm just an amateur photographer, so I have an eye for composition. You just happen to be a natural at creating a scene. Your setup is a dream to look at. I had turned a moment of potential suspicion into another dose of ego-inflating praise. She replied with a string of blushing emojis. The hook was set deep. While she was busy being my unwitting puppet, I was busy building my weapon. Late at night, with her sleeping soundly in the next room, I'd be at my desk, the glow of the monitor illuminating my face. I bought a domain name, something bland and forgettable like w.p.c.datareport.org, and set up a single password-protected web page. It was my digital evidence locker. I meticulously organized everything with cold, clinical precision. I organized the site into sections. The first, which I titled The Film Set, a comparative analysis, contained a gallery of her OnlyFans screenshots, each with a bright red circle highlighting a unique feature of my room. The headboard, the lamp, the art, even a small, distinctive crack in the ceiling plaster. Beside each screenshot, I placed a photo I had just taken of the exact same object in my room from the exact same angle. The side-by-side comparison was brutal, undeniable proof. The second section, the Investor Relations Report, a financial audit, was where I uploaded the screen recordings of her private messages. All her bragging about lying to her parents, all the details about the fake textbook fees and non-existent conferences. I transcribed the most damning quotes and placed them in bold text beneath the video clips, like exhibits in a court case. The website was my masterpiece of malice. It wasn't an angry rant, it was a factual, irrefutable presentation of evidence. I wasn't the villain, I was just the archivist. Willow was the star, the writer, and the producer of her own destruction. The first domino was now perfectly balanced on its edge, polished and ready. I just had to wait for the perfect, most dramatic moment to push it. The perfect moment, the grand stage for my premiere, was delivered to me on a silver platter by Willow herself. About a week later, she was bouncing around the apartment, unable to contain her excitement. "Oh my God, Aubrey, you're not going to believe this," she chirped, waving her phone in my face. "My parents are coming to town this weekend for my birthday. They're taking me to the Gilded Lantern." The Gilded Lantern, of course. It was the most obnoxiously expensive, old-money restaurant in the city. A place where a single appetizer costs more than our weekly groceries. It was a temple of quiet wealth and public perception, the absolute last place on earth anyone would want to have a scene. It was perfect. And, she added, lowering her voice into a conspiratorial whisper, "I've been dropping hints for weeks about how well I'm doing in my advanced economics class, I think. I think Dad's going to get me a new car for my birthday." The sheer, unadulterated entitlement in her voice was staggering. She was going to celebrate her birthday, funded by the very people she was actively deceiving, by asking for an even bigger prize based on a mountain of lies. This was it. This was the moment the entire operation had been built for. The climax couldn't be more poetically just if I had scripted it myself. On the night of her birthday dinner, I was a coiled spring of anticipation. I watched her get ready, a flurry of hairspray and expensive perfume, probably mine. She put on a demure, tasteful dress, the very picture of a doting, successful daughter. "How do I look?" she asked, twirling in front of me. "Like $1,000,000, I said, and the double meaning was so delicious I almost laughed out loud. I waited. I tracked the location of her phone, a little perk of being on the same family phone plan, a detail she'd long forgotten, and watched as her little blue dot traveled across the city and came to a stop directly over the address of the Gilded Lantern. I gave them 45 minutes. Enough time to be seated, to have a drink, to exchange pleasantries. Enough time for her father to be feeling magnanimous, for her mother to be beaming with pride, for Willow herself to be basking in the warm glow of her own deception. The higher the peak, the more devastating the fall. At exactly 8:15 p.m., I picked up my burner phone. I composed a new text message. The recipient was her father, his number easily found in her phone's emergency contacts, which I had accidentally seen weeks ago. The message was short, professional, and utterly devastating. It read, "Mr. Hayes, my apologies for this intrusion. I believe you are a primary investor in your daughter's online business venture. As such, you have a right to see the full scope of her work. You might want to review her portfolio before discussing future investments. Dinner can wait." Below the text, I pasted the link to my little website. The password was a single word. Legacy. I hit send. The fuse was lit. The bomb was delivered. I turned off the burner phone, tossed it into a public trash can 2 blocks away, and walked back to my apartment. I didn't need to see the explosion, I knew I would hear it. The silence that followed was more terrifyingly loud than any explosion. For 2 hours, there was nothing. I sat in the quiet of the apartment, the only sound my own breathing. I imagined the scene at the restaurant, her father frowning at his phone, the discreet click of the link, the password entry. The loading screen, and then the dawning, horrific comprehension on his face as he scrolled through the evidence, the side-by-side photos of my bedroom, the transcripts of his daughter's contemptuous lies. The first sign of the fallout came at 10:47 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize, Willow. What did you do? No punctuation, no capitalization, just raw, panicked accusation. I didn't reply. A minute later, my phone rang. It was her. I let it go to voicemail. The message she left was a masterpiece of escalating hysteria. Aubrey, pick up the phone, pick up, my dad is losing his mind. He thinks, what did you send him? Call me back right now. Then came the calls from her mother. I ignored those too. The final act of the evening's drama was a string of increasingly unhinged voice messages from Willow. They were a journey through the 5 stages of grief, compressed into about 15 minutes. There was denial, this is a virus, some kind of sick prank. Anger, I'm going to sue you, you psycho bitch. You're obsessed with me. Bargaining, please, just tell him it's fake, I'll pay you, I'll give you anything. And finally, a whimpering, pathetic depression. She didn't come home that night. The next afternoon, the front door opened and she stumbled in. If she looked like $1,000,000 the night before, she looked like she'd been run over by a truck carrying that $1,000,000 in pennies. Her eyes were red and swollen, her expensive dress was rumpled, and her face was a pale, blotchy mask of pure despair. She saw me sitting on the couch, reading a book, and the facade of civility shattered. The blame-shifting and betrayal phase began right on schedule. You, she shrieked, her voice cracking, you did this, you ruined my life. You were jealous of me, jealous of my success, so you cooked up this insane, twisted lie to destroy me. I slowly placed my bookmark in my book and looked up at her, my expression utterly placid. I didn't say a word, I just let her burn herself out. She paced the living room, a tornado of accusations and insults, trying to rewrite reality in real time, casting herself as the innocent victim and me as the deranged stalker. When she finally paused to take a breath, her chest heaving, I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small, clear plastic evidence baggie. Inside it, nestled against the sterile plastic, was the single bright pink strand of fake fur I had found on my pillowcase 3 weeks ago. I placed it on the coffee table between us. It was like a switch had been flipped. All the righteous fury, the screaming, the accusations, it all evaporated in an instant. Her eyes locked onto the baggie and the color drained from her face. The fight went out of her, replaced by a cold, stark terror. She knew in that moment that I knew everything. And she knew that I had proof. The lease is in my name, I said, my voice quiet but as hard as steel. You have 24 hours to get your things and get out. If you're not gone by then, the next person to get a link to that website is the building management company. And after that, your university's dean of student conduct. Your call. She just stared at the pink fiber, and for the first time, she started to cry. Not the crocodile tears of a manipulator, but the ugly, hopeless sobs of someone who has been utterly and completely defeated. She left, it took her less than 12 hours. It was a pathetic scramble of cardboard boxes, frantic whispers on the phone, and the quiet, rhythmic sound of her sniffling as she packed her life away. She didn't speak another word to me. She couldn't even look me in the eye. The last I saw of her was her dragging that stupid pink blanket out the door like a security blanket for a broken child. I found out later, through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances, the full extent of the carnage. The dinner at the Gilded Lantern had ended, as expected, in a cataclysm. Her father, a man who valued image and legacy above all else, had quietly paid the bill, escorted his shell-shocked wife and daughter out of the restaurant, and then unleashed hell in the car. Her online business was annihilated. Her parents cut her off completely, no car, no allowance, no tuition for the next semester. They dragged her back home to their suffocatingly small town to get her life back on track, which was their code for putting her under house arrest. Her carefully constructed world, built on lies and my bedroom, had been systematically and permanently dismantled. She hadn't just lost her income, she'd lost her entire identity. After she was gone, I spent the entire day cleansing my apartment, my sanctuary. I threw out the sheets, of course. Then I decided the mattress had to go too. I couldn't stand the thought of sleeping on it. I bought a new one. I scrubbed every surface in my room with bleach until my hands were raw. I rearranged the furniture. I wanted to erase any molecular trace of her existence. As I stood in my newly purified room, the late afternoon sun streaming through the window, a strange feeling washed over me. It was that emptiness after they talk about. The thrill of the chase was over, the project was complete, the rage was gone, the intellectual satisfaction of my perfectly executed plan was fading. For a moment it was just quiet, but then I sat down on my new, clean bed. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of lemon-scented cleaner and fresh paint, not cheap vanilla perfume. The silence wasn't empty, it was peaceful. It was the sound of absolute, unviolated privacy. It was the sound of my space being my own again. I realized it wasn't emptiness I was feeling. It was freedom. It was the profound relief of having surgically removed a parasite from my life. The revenge wasn't just about her downfall, it was about my restoration. Reclaiming my home, my peace of mind, my sense of security, that was the real victory. And as I lay back on my bed, alone and completely in charge of my own world, I knew that was a new beginning. And that right there was the sweetest part of the whole damn thing.